I basically, I think for this talk, maybe 4 purposes we can accomplish. 20 minutes. First of all, I would like to introduce OrbiMed to you. Second of all, in terms of funding opportunities for emerging biotech companies in Asia, maybe we can look at challenges and opportunities from both investor perspective and company perspective. And then one take-home message, I think, maybe I just bring it up front, is I think emerging biotech companies in Asia may be in a better position versus biotech companies in the US, and I hope there's enough companies and enough capabilities in Asia to take advantage of this opportunity. How to do it? Okay, great. So OrbiMed, as many of you know, is the world's largest healthcare-only investment firm. We have over $6 billion US dollars under management, with half of that in public market, in the secondary market, and half of that in private equity. We have been around for 20 years with offices in New York, which is the headquarters, San Francisco, Shanghai, India, and then we recently raised a fund just for Israel. Now the split, we often talk about OrbiMed advantage, one of which would be the synergy between private and equity and public equity investment. Some of those are listed below. And then this is our public equity return track records, which I think less relevant for this conference, but this one is a detailed list of our historical private equity fund. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. The 5th is the OrbiMed Asia partner, which was raised in 2008 at a total of 185 million. And last year, we raised one of the largest private equity fund with fixed income for a royalty fund. Now, going to the Asia market, our current exposure in Asia in 2 major regions, one is in China, one is in India. And then if you look at the split of the healthcare market in Asia, you can see pharmaceutical actually accounts for vast majority of the markets, and which probably is the case in the US as well. The opportunities we're facing in Asia is apparently fast growth rate, which is driven by population, by GDP growth, and also by increasing spending in healthcare as percentage of GDP. And then if you put macro aside, I think on the micro level, company capability in drug development and also in product development across healthcare has been drastically improved in the past 5 to 10 years, which also represent an attractive investment opportunity for investors. Now, good news and bad news. Good news is there's currently lots of attention for emerging biotech drug development companies in Asia. Bad news is if you look at historically, the percentage of so-called, we all have different definition for biotech companies, and then depend how you define it. This slide shows some statistics done by a company called BioVenture in China. And if you look at all the deals that has been done in 2010 and 2011, the percentage of biotech fundings available to biotech companies is still limited. and then I have another slide that shows, this might be too small, my apologies. But, and then this is by no means is a complete collection of venture capital and private equity investment in China and Asia. But if you look at what we have here, a few, so most of those companies are growth stage companies, meaning they have revenue, they have profits. And a few companies that at drug discovery level or drug development level at early stage are, this one is called Atlantis. That is a deal that was funded by ex-GSK executive, and the funding actually coming from, and then we'll go through more of the funding sources later in the later slides. And this is example, funded by a Chinese angel who committed 100 million, but as first step put in 50 million to just invest in a concept, investing a drug development, drug discovery program in China. This is one of the kind that you can study if you want. And then there's another company called Hua Medicine, which I mentioned earlier. Investment was led by Fidelity, and then the concept is also to in-license clinical stage programs from pharma and biotech companies, and then developed in China, and then there should be another one. Oh, here, Biogen is also a company is now currently studying in Beijing, and then have a similar business model as Hua Medicine. And then their initial investor, I hope, if there's anybody from those companies, feel free to jump in. And then throughout my presentation, feel free to ask questions. We would like to make it as interactive as possible. And then this one, their initial first investors is corporate. Merck putting considerate amount of money into the company. And they are currently also in the fundraising period. And then one of our portfolio company, which I put it in the middle, and then our CEO is sitting, Jin-san is sitting there, is actually one of very early drug discovery program that an Asia-focused venture capital fund has invested in, and then they focus on oncology drug development with some very attractive assets, including Avastin-like monoclonal antibody and bispecific platform. However, here's the challenge. The challenge is. The challenges are several-fold. One is, if you look at the recent exit in China and in India, and we haven't seen any biotech-like company exit yet. Well, one of the reasons is we haven't invested in many of the biotech companies. And then here is the second challenge. If you look at, this is not a very good slide. It's too light. But if you look at the size of the IPOs that have gone public in the recent years, the venture-backed companies are very small. If you look at, this is also orthopedics company, the market cap, I think at the IPO, at the time of IPO is about 300 million. And this one, is also around 2 million right now. And this one is a little bit bigger, 500, 600 million. And the other IPOs, Sinopharm, those are state-owned enterprises, and that's not the type of venture investment we're talking about. So one of the challenges so far, the IPO the public market, the value they recognize for Asian companies, most of that are still based on earnings and revenues. Therefore, they're relatively small. If you're talking about to put in 50 million or 100 million into a drug development company and then have a potential exit value of 200 million, that's a challenge. So I think that what we want to do for the companies in Asia probably need to be creative in terms of business model. When I think through it, what are potential pharmaceutical investment opportunities in Asia? What do we invest in Asia for? There are three types of assets. One is the drug development program, the drug assets. The second is resources in Asia. Labor is cheaper. Maybe some infrastructure is cheaper. We want to take advantage of that. And then the third type of opportunity would be Asian markets. Although it's still very small, 1/10 of the worldwide, but they are growing very fast. So under those three categories, then we can see there have been different investments made in Asia. One of which has been quite successful in China, at least in the past 5 years, is the CRO, CMO model, where you provide drug discovery and drug development services, generate revenue from early on, and then maybe later you start to form a profit sharing program with large companies, and then start to generate your own IP, and then move towards drug development. Of course, there's a line need to be drawn in terms of what are the service part, what are proprietary drug development parts, but that's a model that's being used by some Chinese companies, which we have invested in one of them called Crown Bio. And then more popular model probably is to start with specialty pharma, where you generate revenues, become self-sustainable with products that are already on the market but have established sales marketing channel. And then later start to do more development stage program to enhance your product portfolio. Therefore, in both those models, the capital requirements at early stage could be less significant than the straightforward drug development, drug discovery platform. And then so far, if I look across the Chinese pharmaceutical market, I can't say there are many companies with fully integrated pharmaceutical company, fully integrated model that you can have from right beginning. You have the capability from drug discovery to commercialization. Now, from company perspective, if you are an emerging Asia biotech company, what kind of funding opportunities that you might be able to find? So I can see, from what I can see, there are three sources. One is traditional Western investors that with very in-depth expertise in sciences, and then they could potentially look into emerging biotech companies in Asia. But this morning, as we heard from John and also Sinclair, is is the capability, the technical capability, as well as management capability in Asia. I think that need to be developed in order to attract more and more Western investment. And then I've seen increasing amount of interest from U.S. corporates, from big pharmaceutical companies. They have a certain venture arm, or even without a venture arm, they're willing to put certain equity money in Chinese company, in Asian companies. And then the second source would be Asian investors. As we saw in the example of Atlantis, that's just an angel investor actually in Asia, could put out in the order of 100 million, and then government funding, which I can illustrate more in the next slides, is become a very significant source. I think Pharma also attracted lots of resources from Korean government, and Chinese government have many options for non-dilutive financing. And for pure Asian investors, we have seen more and more traditional Chinese private equity investors who specialize, who made very significant return from TMT or consumer sector, now are looking at life sciences, biotech companies in Asia. And then the third category of potential funding opportunity would, of course, coming from cross-border investors, which I list OrbiMed as one of them. And then the difference there is, they are, for established U.S. Venture capital investors, they are also specialty and general investors. And then which one you should go to, I think, also depend on the specific situation that your company is. Now, one point about getting government funding, one example I can give is for the Chinese government, for the 12th five-year plan. If you look at amount of money the government has committed to spend to support innovative life sciences, it's manifold increase in the past few years. And then for the 12th five plan starts in 2011, and total committed money is $6 billion US for such purpose. Okay, here is a list of OrbiMed portfolio companies. As you can see, we go across from pharmaceutical, from drug development to CRO, to medical devices, and also to healthcare services. And one exit we have so far is Forte Bio, that we realized about 4 times return. That was a trade sale to Paul. And then there are a few potential IPOs coming up. I will just finish my talk, with this last slides, and this is the areas that we're looking at. And then if you look at, potential, investment opportunities, drug development, you can find opportunities in R&D, art outsourcing, as well as in domestic consumption for drug development companies in Asia. That's a set of matrix that we're looking at in terms of when we go out and look for investment opportunities in Asia. That's the end of my presentation. Any questions?